Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9. And of course, we're playing as Italy. Now, mentioning that Black Ice 9, this is the most stable version of Black Ice I have played in a long time. Now, I haven't played the new 911 or 911. I mean, it has a bad connotation number there, but in two different ways. But from all I hear, it's as stable, or if not more stable. Now, like I say, this is the most stable Black Ice I've played in a long time. But you may notice minor differences from the end of the last show, and that is because it crashed when I manually saved the game. And why it crashed, I think, is because I did the resign and start back up. Did it twice. Don't know if doing it twice mattered or just doing it. And that made it so that I couldn't, or it wouldn't save. And once it gets corrupted, I've just always learned now to always restart my system. Clear out the bad, bad save, and then I don't worry about the logs so much, though I have cleared that out often in the past, the log files, but definitely rebooting my system, because I've had just restarting, properly restarting Koi 3 doesn't always, or sometimes specifically didn't allow saves to work, even, from good stuff. So just on that sort of note, wanted to comment on it. So we're starting, get a bit more detail. Went and promoted a bunch of different people up. Got some better leaders in different positions. You're going to support that attack. You can support this attack. Okay, armored HQs. I think we've already covered a bunch of this recently. Yeah. And yes, we'll take those. Okay, so we have the invasion fleet here. Okay, let's see, who we want to, not the naval base, there we go. Put you under a chain of command. Now if I was thinking I was going to invade here in Gallipoli, but then I realized again that if I invade next to there, it'll probably give it to Germany, and the point is to not have this go to Germany. So, so we're going to invade into Kurdag or whatever, and then sort of blossom out to hopefully secure as much as we can here in the east of Turkey. I want to take Turkey, all of it, and I think I can take it alone. So we are flying in as much supplies as we can. Hopefully keep these guys sort of minimally supplied. And running supplies into all ports here. How is my armor HQ? I have like all this switching and changing. I forget that. Oh, there it is. Oh, it's up here already. Oh, well, of course, there we go. That works. Got a better leader in charge of some of these units here. So, they should do well. Okay. Now, don't know if the supply situation is going to get any better. These guys are up all the supplies I can dump. There's too much stuff, but we're building up a little bit of reserve, it looks like. And I'll keep coming in. Okay, so let's again save this, save game. Close. Okay, so now diplomacy, Turkey. Declare war. We're going to conquer it. Again, as I said before, because this is Mussolini's war and he wants to conquer it, and I want to be able to run supplies through it. Alright, you guys come right into here. Invasion. Anything that flies. Now, mountain division, come up through there. Now, I know I gave a talk recently on combined arms and how you want to lead with your sort of better armored units and not choke up the road before you and all that stuff. And I'm serious about that. That is the best way for things. But this is also Hearts of Iron. Be attached to somebody. And with the delays between attacks, no, here. You have that situation that you don't have in real life. So you're starting out with some infantry attacks. I hope will be successful. And now let's come up to here. In case those aren't pushing forward very fast. You come that way. go. So we're pushing in. Oh, also I want to let's strip out these guys. You're going to come up into here. You're going to patrol. Attack the invasion force. They have some coastal battleships, which I think will take what we need to deal with the yeah, we'll stop that as well. What we need to do to deal with the Italian, or I mean the Turkish Navy. But overkill isn't bad. Well, since we're thinking about naval attacks here, well, let's do this. We have enough. We have a lot more than I thought we would. So, leadership, that is. And even with recently putting a bunch more into diplomacy, I want to try to get Spain into the Axis. I think I'm doing that. I know I did that at one version. Don't know if did it. Yep, we're influencing Spain. Trying to get where is Spain? Oh, way up here. Trying to get it towards us now. Well, this version is working out much better because we have oh, well, there we go. We lost an auxiliary vessel, bummer, but we took out a destroyer and cruiser. Hope we didn't lose any units. Support unit. No, looks like we didn't. We had some extra. So, well, let's put up some more air intercepts there. Find anything with the Turkish flag on it and sink it. Medium bombers, you've got a little greater range. There we go, that'll help. Intercept. No, we're not doing over transatlantic. Purchasing at the moment. Okay. Now back to this view. Let's see how fast we can race up with this unity. Yes. not moving that isn't in the core command. And now everybody's moving good. Drive deep. Well, let's use air power from up here to attack here. There we go, that's some fast moving units. Hopefully get deep before the Turks can properly react this time. Okay. And we're going now. Oh good, we're actually landing on the right beach. Okay, well. Yes, I am considering, if needed, very much to supply via the air. Now let's just go straight for this over there. That would be a nice supply route here. We can get it. Preferably before flying becomes too big of an issue. There we go. I didn't need to get from last thing. We will get those soon. Okay. Completely unexperienced commander. Let's just put this guy in. He uses very little supplies. Move over here to be in ready if needs be. Yes, designated training, great. You still got fights left in the desert. Sure. Ireland, sure. Good, we've won there. And we're driving them out. Damage control systems, good. I think that's grayed out. Yeah. And small radar. Okay, and that one. We want to switch. And now we do have a bit of a surplus. Oh, got rid of a torpedo boat. Looks like, well, a little bit of nothing serious damage from fighting on a destroyer group there. Okay, we've won this battle. I think these guys will be faster, so we push down into there. Looks like you're going to win. So you push. You join in. You join in. Oh, and how long is only doing? Oh no, never mind. Bulgaria, yes, you may have supplies. I trade most things with you. Spoils of war, yes, I hope so. Military half-tracks. Truck-type vehicles. Fire control solutions. And yes, also grayed out, good. Barnham is lost, and we have one down in here. Well, that would be a good, useful technology. Yes, we'll take that. Wow, why are these guys moving so slow? You know, in combat, okay. And these guys are going to stop, and now if they're determined to take a little bit of, I don't really care as long as we get them basically sealed off. Not that I want to share with my allies, it's just I want a decent amount of Turkey, or most of Turkey. The good bits. Okay, there's something coming through here that's pretty big. I put down. Well, let's have you convoy rate. See if you can, once you kill what you spot. And like I said before, I'm not really worried about taking or not, or being cut off or not here. There will ultimately be a problem. Okay, yes, that happened last time. And forward to victory, new battle commander. And yes, I'll go with it for this as well. No. The battle commander is probably in Rome, but no, that's the one I moved down for Dolia. Veteran HQs, one of those down here. This is sort of becoming where I deploy units from, so. Well, that's a nice army, and so is that. Or is it in my production queue? Battle commander. Oh, there it is. Okay. Up to the top. They can support that attack. These guys can attack up into here, into there once they can. They sort of mostly pin these guys from moving forward. Flying boats, good, good, good. What am I thinking of? It's down here. Okay, and yes, it's grayed out. Well, I was thinking about starting those, which is not a bad thing to do, but let's look. Asymmetric warfare, we want to do that. Oh, we stole some Japanese blueprints. Okay, so our spies have stolen plans that let us improve our abilities in amphibious war light armor, giving us the following benefits. So, yes, of course, we can now, if we want to, build floating tanks. I think the Japanese were the... Well, the Soviets had some light reconnaissance tanks that would cross rivers, too, that were amphibious. I don't know that the Japanese were the first. Okay, view. Terrain types. We can produce more stuff or more supplies, which I guess is stuff, but stuff I was meaning equipment of some type for units. Okay, we're getting some of those mobile divisions built. Building a few of these things to put with some of our new HQs to create the command battle units. Let's do a few of these to sort of do similar types of things. We can put those with all kinds of stuff. I'm not used to having a lot of those as I play as Germany. Okay, so we got the capital here. You come and cut off there. Now let's send, create a supply convoy from Toronto to Istanbul, which we are going to rename someday to Constantinople. Okay, Soviets, you can have some supplies. And more leadership probably from taking Constantinople. Well, let's do engineering units. And now, well, yeah, you come on board. You come on board. And you come on board. That's all that I want to move for now. Transport up to there. These guys are battling. Flotilla of some sort. That's some nice. And sonar detection equipment. Well, guess we should start on that. Would be nice to have good fighters to beat down the Soviets with and things. Oh, you guys should be moving forward. those guys have engineers. They'll get across the river better. They don't, but we still need to attack into there. Airborne unit training. Now that's something I think we're going to stop for now. Kept it up and got it to this point because that'll often be a critical battle, but don't want to overly focus on it too much. Let's look at some of these. Oh, well, we should be doing all of these, shouldn't we? Yep, we really should. Rare materials, that's the longest one and maybe the most critical one. Well, no, oil probably is, but where are all my ships? Where are my units? Oh, here they are, I guess. Oh, you got stopped because of the Turkish fleet going by here somewhere. Okay, inter service, like between the Air Force and the Army. So we're going to stop that, and the Navy, of course, but we are using a fair amount of Navy, so let's see what. Oh, we know to. That's right, we need to come back and get these guys. They're the highest priority right now for, I think, active sonar. That's a one and done, so now we're going to come over here and do these. Coal to oil. Sure we have enough. But as much as we can have light bomber prototypes. Now that does free up research here, which is useful and maybe necessary. But let's. Here we get these. We are importing a lot of both of those so cheaply. Steel first, and we have a teeny bit more, so we'll do coal. Okay, let's do that. I'll get a lot more of these torpedo boat things. Quite honestly, I was hoping for more auxiliary type vessels, but well, that's quite a lot. Well, that's a lot more than good. We needed that. I normally leave some for fishing, but I think this was a case of needing all of those. I want to be able to put a lot on board to be able to go after Malta and take it out soon. Getting Turkey is, well, higher priority, because for Malta, look at all this stuff. We're sinking 5 convoys, 6 convoys, 2 convoys, and I don't think Germany is doing much sinking. So I'm sinking the British fleets that's trying to supply into here. So that's important. We're also, I think they're now dealing with whatever Turkish shipments as well. So that's useful to have some units in here being supplied. But we want to take this out, and preferably this, before, what, mid-42. So there is no scripted invasion here, would be the ideal thing. So we want to take those out. But I think because it's going to happen by decision, that the AI will pick yes on, is to start Barbarossa in, what, June 41. So for the time crunch situation, right now it's best for us to take down Turkey first. So all these guys get the back up here. I wish they would return a bunch of these units to Germany, but oh well. Izmir, Halifax. Just think how rich we'll be. We'll be selling all kinds of Turkish coffee to the Germans, making massive amounts of money because they won't be able to okay, they can't go there, but they can go there. There we go. Cutting deep into the rear of the Belgians. Yeah, they can't come back around on me. Good there. Still pushing into there. That's a big stack of units that we'll destroy. Retreating now. We'll support them shortly. Over in here. You cross over. Everybody push forward. Medium bomber prototypes, great. Yeah, so now let's come up here. Okay, we've got all the primary industries cranking ahead. Well, let's make sure we're spreading out. We're not. We need to focus on the land war, but we don't want to not. Cover other areas too. Or as well. Okay, you guys keep running out of fuel. Okay, you can air supply right into there, which is good. And you can air supply right into there. Okay, good. Make sure we deal with these guys. Oh, do we now? Are you now on the axis? No, I don't think so, Bulgaria. Aligning towards it, yes. You're still way out here in the middle. I guess you have a all access pass for somebody. Okay, well. What's the terrain? Okay, all pretty open stuff. We come this way. Bulgarian offer. Okay, we'll accept the transit rights. Not that we're going to use them, I don't think. But you never know. There's nothing else that should make them more likely to come into the axis. Okay, our capital ships have better fire control systems. That's always nice. Be able to hit what you're shooting at. And cruisers have better fire control systems. And is it also grayed out? Yes. Okay. Now, let's improve depth charge. Depth charges, I should say. Winning there, but back up here, so we can support that. You're going in there, you're going in there. You're going in there all by yourself. Oh well. Artillery unit training. Load them guns faster. Don't drop the shells on your foot. Okay, now you march back right up here to get ready to... Man, you're a pretty good commander, aren't you? Yeah, oh, okay, enough. You can join that fight. This is fighting HQ. Especially against the Turks. You know, I try to examine nations as I understand them during the time of, that we're looking at. And Turkey, to the best of my knowledge, and one of them was put up, a thread put up by a Turkish person. So he's doing all the digging that he could do in Turkish. And, in this time period, Turkey had no real automobile manufacturers. They did have, slightly prior to this time period, sort of in the early 30s, a Ford plant in Istanbul, which I found and let him know about. But all they did was assemble Ford automobiles and trucks, the Model T, basically. Meaning they basically shipped in the parts and put them together locally. So they didn't have engine production. And I know there's some talk about Turkish airplane production, but I don't even know if they produce their own engines. It's always, to me, a critical element. It wasn't until, fairly recently, within the last year or so, that I found out New Zealand finally had some engine production during World War II. And, I mean like car engines. They produced, and I presume it's engine production, they produced the sort of Bren or universal carriers, like 4 or 6 a day, not very many. That's why there's actually sort of a big sort of collector society of them, at least for the size of the nation, down in New Zealand, because they produced them down here. And that was about it for actual local production of real complete vehicles. So you can talk to Bob Simple Tank or something like that, but that's just putting sheet armor on a tractor. To my knowledge, the only real arms production was Lithgow in Australia, down in this part of the region. So no rifles were made in New Zealand during World War II. So they didn't even have rifle production. Now, many years ago, a friend of mine bought a Vickers machine gun. It was demilled, wouldn't shoot. He was going to, and the 2 side plates were removed from it, if you sort of know what that is. And he was going to put it back together using wooden side plates that would look metal by the time he was done painting them and making them look good, just as a display piece. Vickers machine gun, tripod, the whole thing. World War II production, I would say, or slightly before, because it was made for Turkey. And later, many years later, back in the early 90s, it was imported into a bunch of them were imported into the U.S. And this was sort of, Britain learned its lesson. At the start of World War I, or shortly thereafter, Turkey had some armaments on order, I think ships, but I'm not exactly sure. And with the outbreak of war, Britain thought, hey, we could maybe use these ships fighting in this war. And so we won't honor our contract with Turkey. I think they gave their money back, but they just didn't, deliver the ships, and that really pissed Turkey off. And not that that's what caused it, but as a contributing factor, Turkey joins the Central Powers eventually. So Britain honored its contract to make Vickers machine guns for Turkey. Now it's an 8mm Mauser, or the 7.92, the German caliber. Turkey used the German caliber, and that's what his gun was in the Turkish, built from scratch in the Turkish caliber. After the war started, to complete the contract. Now, I say after because I'm sure the British didn't make the contract prior to the start of war in '39. So theoretically it could have been production slightly before the start of war, but they completed the contract and delivered the guns is the important part. So that tells me, and I do know from other things, basically Turkey wasn't making its own machine guns. I don't know if it was even making its own, but it may have been making its own rifles, but I'm not sure, like Mauser type rifles. But they were importing a bunch of things like machine guns. And you don't import large batches of machine guns if you can build them in peacetime. You know, in the middle of war, when you go, I gotta get guns, we just need guns of some sort, you know, whether it's, you know, if you need more machine guns, you need more rifles, you just need more. So yes, you will buy more to meet needs in war. It's like Britain was buying, even before Lend-Lease, was buying weapons, both in World War I and World War II, from the U.S. But they were also massively producing their own weapons. But during peacetime, they weren't buying any guns from the U.S. If they wanted a U.S. model of a gun, they would just contract with whatever company that was to build it locally in Britain. So you don't, in peacetime, buy weapons if you can build them. And that's, you know, one, it's sort of cheaper internally to produce inside your own country instead of, you know, need foreign exchange, but also it's sort of a security measure in that if you know, that you want to have production going on in your own country, so if war does break out, or as one channel, war were declared, very good channel on World War I weapons, he says that all the time. If war were declared, you would have some local production. So Turkey didn't produce its own trucks. So it didn't produce its own tanks. It didn't produce its own machine guns. So I'm doubting it's producing much of its own artillery. It may be assembling the stuff, but neither was, well, eventually Romania did produce some tanks and Hungary did produce some tanks, but very few. So you really have to look at some of these nations, and I know I sort of disparaged some of them. And I'm just looking at the capabilities of the country at the time, and you know, Turkey just wasn't that industrialized, and so producing large numbers of anything, they just really couldn't. And from my understanding, their command and control sucked, meaning they didn't have radios to very many levels of commands, if you will. So that means your command and control doesn't work so well. What are you out of supplies? So and so things like that is what I'm talking about. And a lot of these other nations just really did sort of not have that ability to play in the big world of war, you know, the game of war at the time. So, you know, now where Italy did, but Italy's, and this is what makes Italy a major power, just barely, is that they did build their own battleships. They did build their own big, 12-inch, 14-inch diameter guns, whatever they were, I don't know right offhand. You know, they did build their own guns. Onsando, I think I'm pronouncing that more or less correct, did build the guns for the ships. They didn't have to import them. They did build their own ships. We've talked about how pathetic some of their machine guns were, but they did build their own machine guns, and it was their own national design. So they did do those kinds of things. So it puts them one step above some European powers. Now, small arms, you know, a lot of nations built some small arms. Many nations within Europe still did not build a full selection of small arms. So, you know, building rifles ain't easy. Really isn't, because that barrel, there's Gross Deutschland and something else there, needs to be able to take a lot of pressure. And to do that, you got to use some good steel. That's why it's really easy to make Sten guns and cheap-ass pistols, because you can do them with fairly soft steels, fairly easy, because they're low pressure cartridges. So, yeah. Well, at this point, it's time to end the episode. I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank you for liking the videos. I really do appreciate that. And of course, please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas. I love hearing from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.